I'll kick us off.
Hey guys, what's up? So recently I just finished Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner Soul Hackers 2, shortly advertised as Soul Hackers 2 on the PlayStation 4. Now, I have a lot to say about this game, and I really do believe this time we really need to talk about it. And with that clarified, let's begin. As always, we're going to start with a positive, and of course, the first thing we want to talk about is the story. This is a game where it takes place in some kind of futuristic Tokyo, and in this futuristic Tokyo there's two factions fighting, which are the Phantom Society, previously seen in Soul Hackers 1, and the Yaragarasu. So these two factions are fighting each other because they are looking for some covenants, some really powerful covenants, and all of a sudden there's a almighty artificial intelligence goddess called Ion. And so this goddess sends her two splinters called Ringo, yeah, these guys were fans of the Beatles probably, and Fig, two girls that Ion apparently is a big, huge fan of modern fashion models, so Ion decides to dress them up as such. Anyway, yeah, they look kind of weird, but I don't mind that much. So apparently this huge fight between these two factions is going to destroy the world, so Ion sends Ringo and Fig to stop that. So you'll be controlling Ringo and three other more devil summoners, you know, and that's it, that's your whole party. There are no more party members in this game, just these four, Ringo and the devil summoners. All in a plot to stop the destruction of the world, meddle between the affairs of these two factions, and, you know, get the covenants to safety. The story is great in this game. It's not the best story ever written, but it's great. It's compelling, it's interesting, it's entertaining, it's there, and it's pretty satisfying in my opinion. But this is a game that is character driven. That's why there's only 4 playable characters, and Fig, which is pretty much the party's navigator. The plot seems to focus a lot on these characters and how they grow up, the experiences they go through, their past, how they overcome their past, and so on. I don't want to spoil anything, but let's just say it's a very character driven game, and it's best judged plot-wise in terms of character development. So let's talk about the visuals. The graphics in this game look beautiful. This is definitely a step up from Shin Megami Tensei 5 and Persona 5. You know, if you thought the graphics looked great in there, you know, they look amazing here. And I'm talking about the visuals, you know, the art style, you know, the character design, the models, etc. Obviously, these aren't, you know, AAA Square Enix level of graphics, you know, but it's Atlus. And compare this game to previous Atlus games, like the ones I mentioned, you know, it's great, it looks amazing, and it's one of the best Atlus looking games in my opinion. Alright, let's talk about the gameplay now, and from this point onward, I'm gonna have to start my comparisons with the previous game, Soul Hackers 1, originally released on the Sega Saturn, only in Japan, and then on the Nintendo 3DS. The first Soul Hackers was a dungeon crawler in first person. That's right, you move, and then you get random encounters in a combat that doesn't have the press turn system from classic Shin Megami Tensei games. No, in here you choose everyone's actions first and hope for the best. Well, guess what? Soul Hackers 2 is no longer a dungeon crawler in first person. Here you can see the full character model from her back, and the camera angle, you know, the default camera angle tries to focus on, well, you're seeing right now it's pretty obvious, but in reality, you know, Atlus wants you to focus on her sword, because in this game, like I said, no more dungeon crawling in first person, and in here there are no random encounters either. Ringo uses her big-ass sword to slash enemies away, and that's incredibly amazing. I really love that, and I think, my god, this is... every single JRPG in existence should have this feature. Random encounters are annoying, I hate them, I've always hated them since I was like 12 years old. But in other JRPGs, you see the enemies on the screen, and you can evade them or dodge them, and sometimes they're hard to dodge, and they chase you around, etc. The enemies in here, they do chase you around, but they give you the option to slash them, to push them away, and when you do that, they just disappear, they leave you alone. So if you're exploring a certain area of this game, and if you don't want to fight right now, you just slash at these monsters, the end. When it comes to JRPG exploration, that's what I call happiness. The camera in this game is a little bit weird because, like I said, it tries to focus on Ringo's ass, her sword, and it's gonna be a little bit of a pain at the very beginning to get used to that, but trust me, I got used to that very quickly. During the first 30 minutes of the game, I was like, man, you know, this is bad. That was one of the first bad things that I noticed, but an hour later, you know, I wasn't having any issues at all, and for the rest of the game, it was great. The navigation and exploration in this game are great. Just like its predecessor, combat in this game does not have the press turn system seen in many Shin Megami Tensei games. No, in here, enemies can exploit your weaknesses, nothing happens. If you exploit the enemy's weaknesses, you don't get an extra turn like in the other Shin Megami Tensei games. But in here, unlike its predecessor where you choose everyone's actions first, no, you choose one action for one character and that character performs their action. In this game you fight as the human characters, you do not control the demons. Each character can equip only one demon and that character's stats and skills are going to be influenced by the type of demon they have equipped. Everyone's got their own type of weapon and there's a shop in town where you can upgrade these weapons, you can increase their affinities, increase their attack, unlock this other affinity, this weakness, this strength and whatnot. One of the things that I like the most about this game is that it really feels like a breath of fresh air. There are so many extremely deep and complicated and convoluted JRPGs out there. Some of them I love with a passion, of course. But this game is simple. It's not that simple, of course. There's some deep and complexity in there, but it's simple. It balances things out, and to me that was like, man, I really needed a game like this. There's the upgrade system, there's the item system, there's the classic, very classic Demon Fusion system, and so on. It's classic Shin Megami Tensei game when it comes to its equipment, and stats system. Going back to the combat, it's played in turns. I already explained to you that you select one character's action and they perform that. If you strike an enemy's weakness at the end of the player's turn, that demon or demons, can act like an all-out attack, like in the Persona games. All the demons that exploited an enemy's weakness, they perform this attack called the Sabbath, and it's like an all-out attack like in the Persona games. It's pretty fun and it does massive damage. The more demons you have stacked up in this Sabbath attack at the end of your turn, of the player's turn, they do massive damage and that's awesome. Finally, each character has their own soul matrix. You can go into the subconsciousness, I think it is, in a digital world. And these are labyrinths that they all look exactly the same. They have portals and puzzles and whatnot. And the more you advance, the more you unlock the characters' past memories and their interactions, with the other party members or with their people from their past, like I said. And every time you fight a boss, you get an event and so on. And after that, you unlock a skill which can be pretty useful in battle, actually. Overall, this game has amazing graphics, amazing combat, amazing character development, amazing story, amazing music. But before we get into the music, let me answer that very same question you're probably wondering at this point, and that is if you need to play this game before Soul Hackers 2. The answer is actually no. There's some really small connections to this game, like the Phantom Society is also an antagonist in this game, and I think the games take place in the same universe, but I barely saw any connection whatsoever. Almost anything of the story of this game gets mentioned in this second game. Probably there's a side quest out there that mentions something, probably there's a DLC, I don't know. The main story, the main game, nothing to do with this game from what I saw, so don't worry, you can start with Soul Hackers 2, no problem. The music, like I mentioned, this game has an incredibly good soundtrack, but it's kind of weird. It's composed by Keiichi Okabe, you know who that is? You do, right? Come on, man. It's the guy who composed the Nier games, the music in Nier, Gestalt, Replicant, and Automata. Yeah, that very same guy. But because it is that very same guy that composed the music, that the music in this game is both the great and the I don't want to say the bad, but here's my complaint. It's a very small complaint. Most of the music is amazing, you know, and in the Soul Matrix, you get this really melancholic and depressive music, which kind of fits with the Soul Matrix because, you know, you focus on the character's past and you watch their tragedies and whatnot, so it's fitting. But in the dungeons, I mean, it's kind of like boring. It's kind of like, you know, why this music? They could have composed something much better, you know, something more in the usual Shin Megami Tensei style. But here, Keiichi Okabe and his band, Monaka, they just decided to create these really forgettable music dungeon themes, you know. While the battle themes, all of them, but boss battle themes, you know, are amazing. There's a town in this game, you know, and the town is menu-based. You can walk around in town, but mostly you'll be just clicking on the menu and going straight up to your destination. That's a great thing in my opinion. That's not a bad thing at all. But sometimes the music in this town and the different parts of the city and the shops can be hit or miss. Sometimes kind of like okay, and sometimes it's really good. Now, I guess my one and only complaint, real complaint, which it isn't big to be honest, is that this game is kind of repetitive, just like its predecessor. The dungeons are really long. You know, if you're looking for a game where it's 70% gameplay and 30% story, you got it. You found it. This is it. Because the majority of the time you'll be exploring, getting lost, getting into a lot of puzzles, you know, just like in many Shin Megami Tensei games, lots of dead ends, lots of teleportation devices, lots of portals, and so on. So it does feel kind of repetitive at times, and that's about it. You know, my other complaint is that the Soul Matrix thing, as of the making of this video, just because I got a review code before the game was released, there are no guides online, so I looked it up and I was confused because I'm not sure if this Soul Matrix stuff, if completing a character's Soul Matrix affects the ending. And I'm gonna say this because, don't worry, I'm not gonna spoil the ending, but let's just say that when I finished the game, I got this ending that was like, okay, like it feels, it's not a bad ending, but it feels kind of like one, a little bit like that, you know, but I don't know, I feel like I did something wrong, and I only completed one character's Soul Matrix, only one, which was Melody, you know, this blondie with the red clothes, you know, she was by far my favorite character. I love her, and I love Ringo. The guys are okay, at the beginning they're kind of generic and they grow on you, but, you know, overall it's a good cast, they end up growing on you. But Melody was my favorite character, I completed her Soul Matrix, and, you know, I just didn't know at the end. I guess we're gonna have to wait until the game comes out, which is pretty much today, yeah. And I'll check up online, and we're gonna have to find out if I did something wrong, if there's different endings, and what you need to do to get a different ending. But that's just a minor complaint. Oh, and I guess the fact that you have to exit every single area or dungeon and go back to the safe house, which is pretty much your base, to heal both HP and MP, it's a bit of a pain in the ass, but fortunately the game has portals and in dungeons, so you can just teleport right back to them to get back where you left off. That's it, guys. To be honest, I don't have a single true complaint about this game. There's nothing that's really bad. It's no masterpiece, but I think it's an excellent game. I strongly recommend it. I'm so grateful that this game was released because nobody was expecting a sequel to Soul Hackers, and let alone, you know, a non-direct sequel, you know. You don't have to play the first game to understand this one, which is great. So the last thing I want to say is that thank you, Atlus, for apologizing and for reaching out to me to give me a review code for Soul Hackers 2. Amazing game, you nailed it, simple yet effective, strongly recommend it, and that's it, everybody. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!